Hey guys, it's LZR Racers, and it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a couple of weeks, but I'm now back because the season is back as well. The ForzaRC season, of course, has kicked off now, and the first round has just happened. We took part, Lazarus took part, and with that comes the first of my POV videos. It's going to show you a lot, actually. It's quite surprising how much doesn't get through onto the broadcast, so I'm quite excited to share with you stuff that's seen that maybe doesn't get shown on the broadcast itself. There might be new things that have happened that you had no idea about, but either way, I would really like to share with you my experiences in this round, and we can have a look at what it was like from the other side of from the screen, in effect. To begin, we go to Catalunya for the first race. I was assigned with the task of going for the most passes in the race in order to earn an upgrade boost, and hence I was starting at the back in my GT2 RS. Ahead was Mitch though, driving for Williams. He was going for exactly the same strategy, except he was in a Ford GT that was much more heavily upgraded than my Porsche. Proof of Williams' strategy to favour Mitch in terms of upgrades to help him get to the front quickly. After a rough start, as I was blocked by the two Fords ahead whilst passing the slower Aston of Chris, I had it all to gain on the first lap as I needed to pass Mitch before he was able to utilise his upgrades in order to fly through the field. Pace-wise, I knew I could match him, but I knew that it was simply a race to get by the traffic as fast as possible. Coming into this sector though, the traffic became all too much of an issue for most of the field. Into turn 4, I was carrying a lot more speed than I had actually anticipated and fell wide, but it wasn't a problem as I didn't lose any track position as such. But turn 5 here is where things got really messy, as Force 1 behind received a big punt into myself, ricocheting into handicap, resulting in an almighty sim twitch which allowed Mitch and basically everyone else to get away. Now though, it was a bad mistake, and sincere apologies to Seven for this. But as a result of the previous incident, the braking point for that turn had changed, and ultimately I ended up touching his rear, which was enough to send him spinning. Watching in slow motion, however, shows that all three of us had very different braking points, making it very difficult to judge the best line, especially after the previous incident which messed up all of our entry speeds. But regardless, I was the car at the back, and I want to apologise again to Seven. I also want to try and talk about the importance of sharing these kind of incidents, because I feel like a lot of people would shy away from their mistakes, but I'm keen to share the reality of what went on and the ruthless nature of the FRC style of racing. After a very eventful start though, my focus turned on setting the best pace that I could in order to recover my position as much as possible. This, however, was helped by the Porsche's excellent straight line speed, meaning that any GT3 cars could be dispatched off very quickly throughout the race. It was key to balance this though when overtaking Force 1, as his car obviously needed clean air during the first two sectors, as it would be held up massively behind my slower cornering car. And this showed off another interesting new dynamic that's arisen from the new format. The field then started getting into their groove, and we started hitting some top pace in the car, gaining on all the cars ahead. It wasn't long until Force 1 and I were attacking those in front, beginning with my teammate going for a savage outside move on one of the Fords, and this then opened him up to become vulnerable to myself on the long home straight, and that ended in quite a smooth overtake on the brakes into the first corner. Now up into P5, we started to think about gaining on the Koenigsegg of Rossi, the other Lazarus car. Of course though, a pass on him was not entirely necessary, as the team points would not change, nor though would it be easy, as his car had extraordinary straight line speed, but fourth on track would have been a really good finish considering the adversity at the start. Gaining gradually over the course of the lap, it escalated on the final sector of the final lap, where I got a call from Rossi prompting me through in order to aid with the imminent FRR and stewarding penalty from the 7 incident at the beginning. Overall though, this race has a ton of promise, but it was ruined by the mess at the start, and it was a very difficult way to begin at the Forza Racing Championship this season. Onto a new race though, and we were aiming to properly take the fight to Williams this time and recover our points deficit. We go again at Silverstone. This time, however, we opted to put my car up in P2 to try and secure as many points as possible. Mitch, however, had acquired an upgrade boost, adding to the performance of his car even further, making him way faster than everyone else in the field, and it was pretty much impossible to keep up with that Ford now. I, however, had a job to do, and that was to retain second place and score some big points for the team, as Mitch actually cut. I've never seen anyone do that before. He cut the first or the second corner of Silverstone on the inside, which I thought was quite funny. So he picked up a penalty immediately, which of course is completely irrelevant, but yeah. But I had the pace here, and I knew that, and I was pretty confident I could deliver as well. But it turned out that the one challenger I had was a man called Handicap, one of the FRF drivers, and he also was in a GT2 RS like mine, but he had one more single PI, and so that suggested that he was running a different build, and it was a pretty darn good build as well, it has to be said. Handicap and I pulled away throughout the race from the rest of the field, as you can see by the little mini-map at the bottom left. And Mitch was pretty comfortable, as you can see, out in first place in his upgraded Ford GT. But Handicap, interestingly, was on my rear pretty much the entire race until the end, when I had managed to pull out some seriously quick lap times, getting way under the 2-minute mark around Silverstone, which in these cars is very quick indeed. And that was nice, as it allowed a little buffer in between us both, which was lucky, as I had this little moment on the final lap. With a curb on the entrance to Maggots causing my car to freak out, I fell off the track, and keen to avoid a completely unnecessary corner cutting penalty, I held off the track a little to ensure I absolutely didn't gain any time, else Handicap could have gotten a jump on me. As a result, I didn't get a penalty, and I safely finished in second position, scoring some big points for the team. A largely very uneventful race though, showing some good pace and consistency, and it wasn't too bad at all. Finally, we go to Hockenheim, where we are going to try the same sort of strategy again, with me out in second, aiming to score some big points. Unfortunately though, Williams and FRF had given their boost to Mitch and Handicap respectively, who were the two cars starting around me, so I was pretty stuffed right from the start, with P3 being about as good as we could achieve. As we head to the first few corners, I wasn't going to fight either of these two upgraded cars whatsoever, as frankly it's just completely pointless, and instead I was keen to fight off the cars behind in order to retain a podium position. The cars behind, however, had other ideas, as I received yet another big hit, completely ruining my run onto the next straight. This allowed all of the rapid straight line speed cars to have a run on me, making it a lot more difficult to hold my position. Roadrunner was the first to get through, but into the tight hairpin I fell victim to yet another collision, with Tesla creating a space that he could get his Koenigsegg through, pushing me all the way down into fifth. Relegated into this position through no fault of my own, I knew I had to nail the cornering sections, specifically like this stadium section of Hockenheim, in order to gain on my rivals in front. I managed at the end of lap 1 to do a great job, with the FRF driver making a mistake into turn 1, and this allowed me through in order to catch back up to Roadrunner driving for Williams. Although it wasn't quite so simple, as the Brazilian attempted to outbrake me in a car with significantly worse brakes, reducing my ability to get a run even further, but thankfully he yielded his position, which was a respectful thing to do, to be fair, given what was on the line. The problem now, however, was that Roadrunner had pulled a massive gap, and his car isn't exactly slow around this circuit, so it was again time to do some rapid laps in order to close this distance as fast as possible. By this point in the evening, the tension from the racing had eased and I was able to get into that rhythm extremely quickly, even setting my all-time PB in this race at this combination. As a result, though, it didn't take long until we were right on the back of the Koenigsegg of Williams. But unfortunately, just getting on the back of this car is not really enough to make a pass. Now, as it's so fast on the straights, all Roadrunner needed to do was to successfully sit on all the apexes, as he is here, and he's guaranteed to be able to extend the gap between us once we get back onto the straight. And my car really needed a little bit more of a speed advantage for it to even be possible to get by. I kept the pressure on throughout the entirety of the race, and we were both, to be fair, showing enough pace to pull away from the rest of the field. However, ultimately, as Roadrunner managed to get past me on the first lap as I was getting shoved around, it was pretty much impossible for me to get him back again, even if I did show like I had more raw pace. That, in the end, was how the race concluded, with me finishing in P4, just a few tenths of a second behind a Roadrunner in third. But overall, this race concluded a tricky round, especially the first lap of the first race with the whole Catalunya incident at the beginning. But we still finished a solid second place overall in this group, third overall across the two matches that took place. And this round, though, made the importance of picking the right strategy very obvious, as I feel that Williams beat us pretty much purely from strategy calls rather than any obvious pace advantages or anything like that. And I very much look forward to the next round in a few weeks, where Lazarus will be back stronger than ever, as we're going to be able to take our new knowledge from this round forwards throughout the entirety of the season to come. I do hope you enjoyed, though, this new angle on the FRC racing. I look forward to doing more, but if you enjoyed, a like rating or a little comment would help me out a ton, so I can see what kind of content you want to see. But all the best, and I'll see you next time.